This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, organisers have announced the first Super Rugby game being hosted in Queenstown for a decade. A couple of southern blokes have gone on a tractor trek to aid a charity hospital. And there's a new gallery in Queenstown which has many items on display, from flowers to some more unusual items. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Daryl Baser. Super Rugby will return to Queenstown for the first time in more than 10 years when the Highlanders play the Melbourne Rebels at the end of the month. Queenstown Lakes Mayor Jim Bolt says the game will have a feel-good factor for residents and promote the district to a large broadcast audience.
Queenstown Mayor Jim Bolt and Highlanders Chief Executive Roger Clark have facilitated a game between the Highlanders and the Western Rebels rugby teams in Queenstown for the end of May. The game was originally supposed to be played in Melbourne last year until COVID-19 and closed borders got in the way.
In our case, it was either Melbourne or in our region. Melbourne wasn't a great option for the Rebels because they're playing a game on either side of it in New Zealand, so they were quite keen to stay in our region, but were keen to spend a week in Queenstown, and so that led to me giving Jim a ring.
I had a call from Roger one night saying would we be interested in assisting to get a Highlanders game here. That took about half a nanosecond to say yes to.
Queenstown's Sir John Davies Oval has been regularly used for training by visiting international cricket teams over summer, but it's been more than a decade since a Super Rugby match has been held here, in part due to Sky Sports' keenness to screen rugby during primetime viewing in the evening.
The big challenge with playing games outside Forsyth Bar has always been, or outside a venue with lights, has always been the broadcaster. In this case, with the way COVID's gone, we've started to challenge them around their times, and there's sort of been that we've been trying to get an afternoon game each week. So logistically, that's worked really well and played into our hands to be able to play in this magnificent venue, because obviously we have to be able to do it without lights.
Both men say they're hopeful the day will be popular with the public and provide a boost for the local economy.
You know, we've been through a pretty hard period for a year or more. So great to have this here as a celebration, opportunity for lots of New Zealanders and Australians for that matter to come here, helps the economy, but also good to see this facility utilised for a first-class rugby game which we haven't seen for a long time, and my hope is it becomes a regular on the agenda.
It's amazing, you fit well over 10,000 people into a ground like this. We've got no idea how many people we're going to get. Kids are going to be free. We're just hoping it's going to be a full ground with lots of families coming along to enjoy what is going to be a great spectacle.
The game is set for 2:35 p.m. on the 30th of May, with tickets going on sale this Friday. In Queenstown, The South Today.
Firefighters battled a blaze in the roof of a University of Otago building this morning. 4 crews from Dunedin Central, Willowbank and Roslyn were called to the College of Education auditorium in Union Street at 8:25 a.m. The first crews on the scene saw smoke and called for additional resources from Dunedin Central, including the command unit. Firefighters used an aerial appliance to access the roof. Fire and Emergency say a fire was found in the roof and has been knocked down by fire crews. Union Street was blocked between Harbour Terrace and Anzac Ave for a period of time this morning. The cause of the fire is not yet known. A group of Southland men keen on giving back to their community have completed a trek from Invercargill to Christchurch and back by tractor. Taking just over 24 hours, the effort was a fundraiser for a southern charity hospital.
Only just 24 hours after its departure, this reliable 1983 Massey Ferguson tractor arrives back in Invercargill, having trekked almost non-stop to Christchurch and back. While the tractor was only turned off at refuelling stops, several drivers were required so that no one got exhausted.
What we did is we split the team into two groups, and so each group did half the trek up each and then half the trek back. So that enabled the second group to actually have a bit of a sleep and catch up on some rest.
The idea for the trek came out of an initial plan by the Thornbury Vintage Tractor and Implement Club to buy a fundraising brick for the Southland Charity Hospital.
They sort of thought, well, instead of buying a brick, why not do this? This is a great means of raising a lot more money for the charity hospital and having fun along the way.
Fraser Pearce says when they reached Christchurch, they were given a quick tour of the Christchurch Charity Hospital, which is the only other charity hospital in the South Island, and what the Southland one is going to be modelled on.
And so just to see what they have done up there and what's possible down here and the kind of services that could be offered, to me it was a real insight. And I mean, I had no idea what sort of things they were going to be doing. I knew they were going to be starting with colonoscopies, but the other services that they can provide to those who otherwise can't afford it, or the health system lets them down. I think it's a really, really good cause.
People are still welcome to donate to the Tractor Trek fundraiser through their website at tractortrek.co.nz or by texting the word tractor to 4644 to give an automatic $3 donation. In Invercargill, the South Today.
The 100 days target the Southern District Health Board set itself to address issues with bed block is about to pass without the issues being resolved. Yesterday's SDHB meeting agreed bed block is a long-term problem which the board will have to work on more. Bed block is also known as a code black when a hospital is full and cannot admit patients. For several months, the board's hospitals have struggled to cope with higher numbers of patients needing beds and patients having to stay longer in hospital than usual because of acute health issues. In March, Dunedin Hospital declared a code black situation as a large backlog of patients waited in the emergency department for a bed to be found for them. At yesterday's SDHB meeting, Chairman Pete Hodgson accepted 100 days wasn't long enough to address the issue. There's a new experience in Queenstown. It's a gallery for observing the natural world in a unique way. Art gallery owner Meredith Parkin has gone for a vibrant, welcoming layout in her store Flora Fauna, which has everything from flowers to taxidermy for sale.
Meredith Parkin's art gallery and shop on Church Street in Queenstown contains a startling array of taxidermist works mingled in with more conventional display pieces for sale. Called Flora Fauna, the store has the owner admitting the stuffed animals on display might not be to everyone's taste.
People, like that it's different. They sort of, often people laugh at the absurdity of some of the artworks. Some people it's not for them, and you can tell they sort of walk in and turn around and walk back out again, but most part has been really positive.
Some of the works are by Melbourne artist Julia DeVille, who as a vegan and animal rights activist endeavours to display her stuffed animals with respect.
The ideas behind her work are very much about the beauty of the animal and kind of preserving its sort of life in a almost like a museum exhibit.
With a strong background in art, opening a gallery has been a long-held dream, but it was a holiday to Queenstown after lockdown that finally provided the impetus for Parkin to quit her day job.
So I've been an art teacher for the last 10 years and I decided that I would throw in the towel of that and give something else a go. So I opened this shop and never run a business before. But I'm having fun and enjoying myself, so that's the main thing.
The gallery sells all sorts of gifts, with the fragrance of freshly cut flowers and recordings of birdsong, adding sensory levels to Parkin's tableau of the natural world.
So I describe it often as a nature gallery, so both the living and the preserved, and it's sort of an awe-inspiring space, and I wanted it to be a sort of a sensory experience that just basically is a tribute to nature.
In Queenstown, the South Today.
And still to come on the South Today, a Balclutha resident says that the town's main bridge is dangerous, and the new owners of an historic station plan to return part of it to its natural state. See you after the break.
Risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
No mai no, welcome back. Concerns have been voiced about the safety of the main Balclutha Bridge after fist-sized pieces of rubble appear to have fallen from the bridge onto the footpath below. Local resident Graham Blackmore says he's found several chunks of rust-fringed concrete. He says walkers and cyclists could be injured by falling rubble. However, it appears that the concrete pieces may be an indication of the bridge's safety. New Zealand Transport Agency says it has a program of removing loose pieces of concrete before they fall and potentially cause harm. The agency says the bridge is in generally good condition with many years of service ahead. The new owners of Lake Hawea Station are turning back time while facing the future. The Ross family aim to return their part of the lake foreshore back to the native bush, which would have existed before European settlement.
Lake Hawea Station has been undergoing an ecological revamp since Finn Ross's parents bought the 6,500 hectare run 4 years ago. About 14,000 native trees and shrubs, cultivated from seed sourced locally, have been planted to create a 30-metre wide corridor along the lake foreshore from Timaru Creek back to Hawea Township.
A lot of kowhai, beech, coprosma species, kānuka, all the species that were here, but before we came and burnt the forest down in this area a few hundred years ago.
Helping out with the planting program are volunteers from Wai Wanaka, who only just last week planted yet another 2,000 trees. They're already noticing an increase in native bird life, but Ross says there's other native species to be taken into consideration.
Also got some significant work underway on our biodiversity protection for the ground skinks, native falcon, Hebe cuprocedioides, which is a really rare mountain shrub, and the Clutha flathead galaxid, which is New Zealand's second most endangered fish.
While the Ross family are only a few years into the ownership of the land, they're well on their way to their goal of having a farm that's 10 times carbon positive.
The majority of our emissions are our stock, so the main part is, ultimately we've got to try and reduce our methane by a bunch of, better farming practices ultimately, and maintain the planting and regeneration as we go forward here.
As well as native plantings, the station has replaced about 80 hectares of grassland with a more regenerative pasture, using a variety of plants such as quinoa, broccoli leaf, peas, kale and sunflowers, all maintained without tilling the land.
So the reason we're putting in a lot of our regen pastures is threefold: sequester more carbon, diversity for animal health, and also to reduce runoff. So the more diverse pastures, that they won't be grazed back to nothing. There'll always be a bit of vegetable matter there, which will alleviate runoff.
The long-term goal is to see some of the station eventually covered in forest, as it would have been several hundred years ago. At Lake Hawea, the South Today.
And after the break on the South Today, an exciting section of a Central Otago rail trail opens for business, and we have a look at the outlook for Thursday and beyond. See you after the break.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
MTF Finance can help you turn the key on your next vehicle with a loan made just for you. TCs and lending criteria apply.
Thanks for staying with us. A whole new way of enjoying the spectacular views of Central Otago will begin when the Lake Dunstan Trail opens on Saturday. Costing about $7 million, construction of the trail began almost 2 years ago. The 58-kilometre long route starts near the Pisa moorings, passing Cromwell, and then follows the far side of Lake Dunstan to Clyde. The trail includes about half a dozen bridges bolted onto bluffs, plus one suspension bridge. A gold miner's hut perched on a small outcrop halfway along the lake is a reminder of the gold rush days of the 1860s. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. Organisers are announcing the first Super Rugby game being played in Queenstown for a decade, saying it'll be a huge event. A couple of southern blokes have gone on a tractor-trek from Invercargill to Christchurch and back to aid a charity hospital. And there's a new gallery in Queenstown which has many items on display, from flowers to some more unusual items. Time now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's Otago Daily Times. We welcome the Deputy Editor, Mr Craig Page. Kia ora, Craig.
Evening, Daryl. How are you?
Good.
Hey, look, we've got more on our story about the surging waiting list for cancer patients in the south. It's a story we've carried a couple of days this week. The District Health Board, of course, announcing this week that 157 people were on the waiting list for treatment. That's more than double what was usual. And they're waiting for several weeks for the treatment, and we all know what the end result of that is, of course, if you're not getting your treatment. The union representing Southern Radiation oncologists today has voiced their concerns at the delays, saying that the oncologists themselves know that patients might they might have had a better outcome if they'd fallen sick in other parts of the country. So it's a pretty sobering statement to make, really. And the Cancer Control Agency has also today demanded that the Health Board take some immediate action about this. Now they do have a vacancy they're trying to fill at the moment, but it's a real struggle for them. It costs more money in Australia and in the private sector for these oncologists. So, yeah, a difficult situation to be in, but there is a growing feeling that something needs to be done about it pretty smartly.
Indeed, because if you don't get seen quickly, you can die.
Yeah, and of course we've carried those stories as well. You know, people whose outlook isn't great. Some good news for those in the travel industry as well. So the confirmation of the Cook Islands bubble, of course, which is going to be opening on May 17th, it's created a bit of a spark for the industry at the moment. Lots of people getting in. Travel agents saying they've had some of their busiest days since before lockdown. So that's a positive. And the fact that this bubble's open as well has also encouraged people to maybe start booking for Australia. Initially we just had people coming home to visit friends and family, but there's evidence now that people are actually starting to book some holidays, so that's a good thing. And of course ski season coming up, so hopefully things
Queenstown will be fingers crossed.
Well, they will indeed. We catch up with Dunedin icon. I know that's a banned word for the newspaper, but I can get away for it here. That's Jonathan Lamalu, of course the London-based opera singer. He's back in Dunedin, home in search of some normality really in the wake of COVID-19 over in England, of course. He's got a series of performances around the country and will be performing in Dunedin on Sunday, so we've had a good catch up with him, and a great bloke and a nice story. And just finally with sport, interesting story. A lot of our local sports organisations have recorded financial surpluses for the last 12 months, which is surprising, I guess, given COVID. All of them received a wage subsidy during that period. So Adrian Saccone's sort of asking the question about whether they should be paying back some of that wage subsidy. And there's arguments for and against, of course. It's an interesting topic, and it's going to cause plenty of debate, I think, once people have a look at it tomorrow.
That's a heck of a good angle.
It is.
Thanks,
it is a good angle. He's done well.
All that and more in tomorrow's ODT. Time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Today's Southern View captures the sun trying to burn through the fog this morning on the car school run. Looking at the situation, expect a spell of fine weather for a few days as a high-pressure anticyclone brings mostly clear skies and light winds. A mild northerly airflow increases over the weekend. Heading to the northwest of the South Island, Westport and Greymouth are due for clouds and 17 degrees. Darting across to the northeast of the South Island, where it's a similar story. Nelson heads for 21 degrees and Blenheim should make it to 19. Jogging down to Canterbury, expect a few clouds across this region. Kaikoura, Christchurch and Ashburton all head for 17 degrees. Looking at what's in store for the southern towns, the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore are all in for light winds, fine weather and 15 degrees. Heading across to the southern lakes, all centres in this district can expect light winds and clear blue skies. Wanaka heads for 17, Queenstown 16 and Alexandra is similar and 18 degrees. It's reasonably similar again for Te Anau, but your high is due to be 14 degrees. Looking at the northern towns, the light winds and clear skies continue on the coast. Timaru and Oamaru both due for 16 degrees. Further inland, Twizel and Omarama are both expected to reach 17, with light winds and those very familiar clear skies. In Dunedin, it'll be fine and chilly with an overnight low of 5 degrees. Mostly fine tomorrow with a mix of sunny periods and some high cloud. The high cloud is due to thicken from early afternoon. Plan for a high of 16 and a low of 9. It'll be mostly fine and sunny on Friday with light to moderate northeasterlies developing. A high of 15 and a low of 4. Dropping down to the deep south, at Invercargill it'll be fine tonight with an overnight low of 7 degrees. Fine and mostly sunny tomorrow with westerly winds becoming light and variable during the afternoon. Dust off and safety check the electric blanket as it'll be cold tomorrow night. The day's high is due to be 15 and the overnight low 1 degree. Similar weather on Friday with mostly fine and sunny conditions and light winds. Expect pleasant daytime temperatures as you're due for 15 and a low of 2. And that's all from the South Today team for this Wednesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great evening. Ta kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.